This is Faith Family Cars Podcast. I'm Jerry.
I'm Zach.
Hit the key.
Passing alongside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." And immediately they left their nets and followed him.
Welcome back to Faith Family Cars Podcast, guys. We are glad that you tuned back in for part 3 of our budget build series.
Yeah.
So far it's been good. We've talked about planning your budget, what car that you wanted to choose, what you're looking for.
Finding parts.
Yeah, finding parts.
Budgeting for your parts.
And thinking about how to put all that together in a, some type of format, whether you use an Excel spreadsheet or you just make a list in a notebook or however you do that.
I just use my notes app on my phone. That's how I go about it.
And then, that way you're seeing it, and you can keep that budget. And, when you're writing down your parts, you're putting your parts pricing beside it, and you can kind of keep that budget, find the cheapest place to find parts. We talked about that, places that we use. And there was a comment made that I thought was really good that said, I've noticed that anymore I can get, by the time I pay shipping with Rock Auto, I can just go buy it at O'Reilly. And that's very true on a lot of things. And that's how I compare. I add the shipping, and once I see the shipping, I decide, okay, is it worth me just going to O'Reilly?
Well, and then for us too, we've kind of got a good deal going on with our O'Reillys.
Yeah,
so
we do.
We get stuff
a little cheaper.
Yeah, a little bit cheaper, but
sometimes that really helps.
It usually works out a little bit better for O'Reilly's for us rather than Rock Auto.
It does. It does. But I want to throw Rock Auto out there because some of you guys, it may be better for you to go through Rock Auto, and you can find about anything you want.
Well, there are times it still is better to go through Rock Auto than O'Reilly's. It just kind of depends on the part.
Which that was a really good comment, because I had been noticing the last several times that I had ordered stuff that the Rock Auto pricing, was right there with O'Reilly.
Yeah, once you pay for shipping and all the tax and stuff on top of it. So so we got into my build a little bit deeper. We started getting into Zach's build a little bit, but not quite as deep, and he's going to go a little deeper into that build today. Yeah, so my build, I kind of went about it. So Dad came in going about his build as he's already found his parts, and he's already priced his parts on that. Mine,
I bought I'm looking at buying a running driving vehicle.
So my vehicle, we've got two different things here. He's going for, we mentioned it last episode, he's going for the running and driving vehicle already. He's just making it run and drive better. Yeah. Mine, I got it, blown head gasket, doesn't run. I mean, it probably runs, it just doesn't drive very good.
Yeah.
But, it's just a bad deal, so, we're going motor swap as soon as we get it.
Yeah.
So, last episode, I found the estimated pricing of the parts. So, when I do plan out my budget, I always like to go on the high end of what something costs. So when I budgeted this, everybody that watched is probably thinking, "Holy crap, that's really expensive."
Yeah.
You're spending $6,000 including the car already.
Yeah. Well, if you remember in episode 1, I said to you, "Are you sure this is going to be a budget build?"
And I still wholeheartedly believe it is. Yeah. And so, but that's because it seemed very expensive last episode because I budgeted on the high end. I budgeted for a $1,500 motor, for a $1,700 transmission. For, there's some of the stuff I kept the same, and I just decided to buy new. So there's some things I have bought new for the swap. But what I decided to do this episode is show you, if you just look around your area and kind of wait and kind of see what pops up on the marketplace, see what you can find. So according to this, and we'll have pictures pop up for all this. I've got pictures of where I've gotten all these parts. So now we have my $1,800 car, so I decided to take the $300 cheaper price.
Yeah, because the guy lowered it. If you didn't pay attention to the last episode, he lowered the price to $1,800.
Yeah, he lowered the price $300.
Yeah.
So, because I guess nobody wants it. I don't know why. The car is so clean.
It is a very clean car.
It would be a perfect starter. Because, underneath is straight, the interior is straight, be a great starter for a K-swap.
Even if you didn't want to do a motor swap in it, to do a head job on it.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be that bad.
Yeah.
Plus, another thing I found out is I'm not for sure exactly what motor's in this, but if I'm not mistaken, a B-Series super cheap motor, you can swap those in there without any modifications from what I understand.
Yeah.
It should bolt right up to everything. So, and that's a higher power motor. You can put a B-Series with VTEC in it, have a better motor than I think it has a D-Series in it. Yeah. So, even for way cheaper than what I'm doing, I'm going above and beyond because a K-swap, that's cool.
Yeah.
But you could essentially just do a B-series, and from what I've read on forums, it bolts right in. So anyway, I did an estimate for the motor, I guess, my notes are saying $1,100 is what my estimate was last episode. Well, I found one locally to me for $625.
There you go.
And knowing me, I can usually talk people down a little bit, but I'm going to go with $625 for this specific thing. But realistically, I could probably get this to $600, maybe even $575.
Yeah. Which your original price came from eBay, correct?
My original price came from eBay,
because I think I posted
including
a picture
shipping,
of that.
including shipping. So now this price, $625. It's from a guy. I don't even know how far away he is, but I mean, when I find stuff on Marketplace, especially if you're getting a K series that's a good motor. I mean, driving 4 hours to go pick that up is not a bad deal.
It's not a bad deal.
So, because you're still spending less than what you'd buy from eBay.
Yeah.
So then after that,
quite a bit less.
I changed up my transmission from the last episode. Last episode I mentioned you can get an EP3 Civic transmission for like $1,500 on eBay. Well, I went the route of there's multiple transmissions that bolt up to it. From the way I understand it, all K-series transmissions work. So if you have a K20, a K24, K24A2, a K24A3, it doesn't matter. All the transmissions bolt up the same. So,
but you were looking for a transmission that was going to be strong enough for the axle torque if you were racing it.
Yes, essentially. But I don't think I'm gonna try to get as much power as I was originally planning out of it. I could get it under this budget, but I think I want to do a little bit less because when you start getting more power, you've got to beef up everything, and then you're going to be going over. So then
you're out of your budget.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, I decided to go with an RSX transmission. I think it's out of an 02, maybe. An 02 to 05 is what it is, if I'm not mistaken. $900. There's a guy on Marketplace right now, if I'm not mistaken. I think I mentioned him last episode. He's like right up the road from us. He's like maybe 15 minutes from our house. But he's got a RSX transmission for $900. So then I'm still going to go on eBay for the engine harness. I mentioned that last episode, just because, believe it or not, the engine harness is actually more expensive on Marketplace than it is on eBay.
Wow.
I can get it $300 on eBay. It's $325 on Marketplace. But it's just an RSX engine harness. I'm going to go with a Honda ECU for a K-Series swap. They make specific ECUs for K-Series. And that's $790. And then just going to go with brand new swap parts for $629. So all in all, with the car, I think I had it in my calculator. So, okay, without the car, we're at $3,244. For motor, transmission, harness, swap parts, ECU.
And with the car, you're at
with the car, we are at $5,044.
And so that gets it running and driving.
Running and driving. You can go and take it to your nearest show. Plus, at this point, you probably, maybe waiting on your parts to come in. You've probably already sanded down the Bondo that's up on the car.
Yeah.
And you've gotten all that cleaned up. The underneath is straight, so you don't have to worry about nothing underneath as of right now. The interior is mint condition in this car. So you've got a very nice, probably about 200 horsepower running and driving K-Series car.
Yeah. Manual transmission. So something fun to
and
play
it's a 6-speed, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a 6-speed.
Okay, because
I think the RSX transmission.
I think you're right.
I know the EP3 Civic transmission is a 6-speed, but I can't remember for sure if the RSX one is. I think it is, but it might be a 5-speed. But still.
But driving one of those around is just fun. It's like driving a go-kart.
You're driving a 200 horsepower, under 3,000 pound car?
Under 3,000 pound car.
I mean, that's going to be fast.
It's like driving a Fox Body Mustang stock.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a pretty quick
fun.
car, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with this. And I mean, I know everybody saw my stuff last episode and they're like, man, over $6,000. You've barely done anything and you're already way into your budget. That's just because I always budget on the high end, even with my own car. When I budget stuff for my own car, I budget on the very, very high end. I sometimes account for maybe finding a good deal, but you're not guaranteed to find a good deal.
Yeah.
So I always budget on the high end because, for my car, I'm currently looking for heads for my car. I'm budgeting $1,500 for heads for my car. I might find, and this is used, by the way, I might find a good deal on a set of trick flow heads for $1,200.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's $300 I have extra that I didn't plan on having.
Well, I saw something. So this podcast is airing probably a couple weeks after we're recording it.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know. So I saw a video this morning by a Straight Six fan.
Friend of the podcast,
yep. And he is doing a YouTube series about budget builds, and he does one every year, and he checks the market for what vehicles pricing on vehicles
Yeah.
and stuff. And he likes doing offbeat stuff like the Grand Prix.
Yeah, we talked to
like
him a
the
lot
Ford
about that.
Fairmont.
If you haven't watched that episode, check that episode out and you'll learn more about him.
Yeah, so he is actually putting together this I think he said it's going to be 5-episode series on the top 5 offbeat cars you can buy right now.
Cool.
On a budget, and he searches out cars kind of like I did that are bodies in good shape, they run and drive, they just need work, and they need bolt-ons to make them faster, stuff like that. Stuff to where you're not going to kill your budget and you're not going to kill yourself trying to get stuff done. Yeah. So, but anyway, he's getting ready to start this series. So in this video, he lists like 4 things, I think it was 4 or 5 things about, setting your budget, and what to think about when you're looking, or his criteria. That's what it was. Yeah. It was his criteria when looking for a budget build.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Okay, so I get that straight. Sorry, Grant. The last thing he puts on there, this was a knock at you, buddy. The last thing he puts on there, it's got to be a V8. It's got to be rear-wheel drive.
Man.
As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, Zach.
Oh, man.
Oh, the Honda Civic doesn't meet his criteria, buddy.
No, it doesn't. But I'll tell you what, if you want, well, I guess because a Honda Civic, I don't really know if you can consider that a hot rod.
But Grant, you're a straight 6 fan.
Yeah, it's
why are you V8? Why are you saying it's got to be a V8?
Yeah.
Answer that, buddy. Oh, I'm just messing with him. Grant is a friend of the podcast, good guy.
Yeah.
And go and watch his episode. I don't remember which one it was. 6 or 4. I think it was 4.
Yeah, it was like 4. It was early.
It was early. Yeah.
Very early on.
But anyway, his YouTube videos, go check him out at Straight 6 Fan, because his YouTube videos are kind of going to fall right in line with what we've been talking about. Yeah. He's going to put out there some cool cars to build that you can find on the cheap because they are.
If you like unique cars, you definitely want to follow him. He's got pretty cool taste in cars.
Yeah,
I will say
I
that.
think so.
It's very unique, very different than a lot of people. Oh yeah, and I love the C4 Corvette wheels.
They've grown on me. They look good.
I'm a huge fan of the directional C4 wheels, and that just completed that.
Well, we got off topic here, but that's because. I got to thinking when you were talking about your car about that video, and I was like, I got to bring it.
Doesn't meet his criteria.
Doesn't meet his criteria. So
sorry, my Civic will be faster.
Not a Grant Tommy build.
My Civic will be faster. It's okay.
Yeah, maybe
it will be.
I bet it wasn't faster than that Fairmont he had.
I don't know. Maybe. Well, just with the K series, no. But when we get into modifications,
yeah,
I think I'd beat a lot of these cars.
Well, so to my truck. We went over pretty much the build, and I had it at like $4,500, somewhere in that range. So I kind of want to discuss a little bit about if we went the route, when I talked in episode 1, if we went the route of me doing the autocross type truck. So you can build this truck for autocross on the cheap, but you can only go so far with it on the cheap. All right, and you got to you're not going to do a QA1 build. You're not going to do a Ride Tech build.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to do a Beltec, you can get away with a lot of the Beltec stuff. DJM, you can use them, but you're not going to be high-end.
Yeah.
Just isn't going to happen in this budget.
Realistically, in motorsports, something to keep in mind is being competitive, like super competitive, and being on a budget does not go together.
Don't go together.
No.
But if you want to go and have fun, like for me, I want to let a little bit of cat out of the bag, but don't hold me to this right now because we got a lot going on. But our Mustang Cobra is going to become an autocross car, not a full-fledged top tier, let's go and compete.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun car. It's going to be a car to learn in, and that's what I want to do with it. I've thought about for a couple years now doing that, and my wife and I were talking over the weekend, and that's what the plan's going to be.
Yeah.
So, but I can tell you right now, it's going to be built on a budget.
Yeah.
It's not going to get top-end parts because top-end parts aren't in my budget for that car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but thinking about that, I went through and I looked up what we could use to make this a budget build autocross. So we're already going to have nice wheels and tires that are going to be grippy, based on what I was looking at in the last podcast. The wheels that we were going to get from Holly, and then the 20-inch tires, they're wide. I think they were like 12-inch wide tires. So good tread on them. They're going to be grippy. But that's not even the main thing. You got to keep the truck on the ground. You got to keep the truck from sliding sideways.
Tight turning.
And we had already talked about using a brake system, though, that to me wasn't going to quite be adequate for autocross. But it might get you started, okay? But you're probably going to end up changing them real quick. But the braking systems are going to be hard to fit in the budget.
Yeah.
So by the time you do the suspension,
if you go with the braking system we chose, you could probably run a couple times, but you have to let it sit for a little while.
Yeah, let it cool and then
run
go
a couple
again.
times again. Yeah.
So
it's not going to be able to be hot lapped with those brakes.
Yeah. So here's what I'm gonna throw some pricing out there for some setups that will get you a lot stiffer, and to get you started running autocross and having a little fun. But I can tell you, no build's ever done.
Never.
So let's just remember that.
Yeah.
So one of the setups I looked at right off the bat was, what in the world was going on?
You pulled up on it.
All right.
There you go.
I found a whole setup that has front spindles, lowering springs, Beltec drop shocks all the way around. It's got a flip kit, C-notch. That whole complete setup was like $1,175. Then there's cheaper setups, but they don't come with as much stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
That one right there pretty much came with what you need, but that's a good lowering kit. Really, that's what that is. It's not really stiffening you up much.
Yeah.
That's just a good lowering kit, not cutting springs and not just using drop shocks.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, if you
this kit right here is getting you down 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah. You're going to need, sway bars
2 and 4 inches.
And you're going to need sway bars to tighten that steering up a lot.
That's what I looked at next, okay? So you can buy a front and rear sway bar set from Beltec for a little over $500. And so you can go with the cheap lowering kit, the $1,100 lowering kit that is spindles, that is springs, that is flip kit, C-notches, all of that, plus your sway bars for another $500 and something, okay? Or you can go the route that I would probably go, because this would set you up to later on, a year or two down the road, if you wanted to do coilovers. Because coilovers are not going to be in this budget. Not good coilovers, okay?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to set yourself up for that, then you can go with a DJM kit that comes with tubular upper and lower control arms, your lowering springs, your C-notch, Beltec shocks. It comes with all that for $1,500. But see, you're getting your tubular upper and lower control arms.
Yeah.
So that means here in just a year or two, when you get your money saved up after this, the budget's done for the initial build. Now I'm thinking about future. I want to put coilovers all the way around. All right, now I already got my control arms.
Yeah.
So I can find me a budget coilover.
You also save a little bit of weight with all that tubular stuff.
You do, yeah. So, but still, you don't have sway bars here. So you're still another $500. So a couple more $1,000 onto, like if I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about some of the parts that I already spent money on to just lower it, make it a good cruiser. If I don't spend it on that and I put these in its place, then I'm getting myself upwards to that 6,000 mark.
Yeah.
In order to make it a lot stiffer, more capable of doing some type of autocross. But again, here I'm not talking about a 4-link. Unless you can fabricate and make all the bracketry and can find the Panhard bars really cheap to do a 4-link setup yourself, you're not going to be doing that on a budget. If you're going to be trying to buy a bolt-on kit, it's not going to happen.
It's got to be something that's got to come later on, after your initial budget build is done and you're saving up over the years as you keep the vehicle. That's something you could look into.
Yeah, and so For me, most of the time, what I am starting to find, like with my own truck and with our Mustangs and stuff, your builds usually happen in phases.
Yeah.
So you have, if you're even doing a budget build, you're going to have your initial, this is my budget build vehicle. So we're doing the initial truck. Well, phase 2 is going to turn it into this. Yeah. This is something I would have liked to done, but it didn't fit in the original budget.
Yeah.
But if you start out and you say, I'm buying this truck or I'm buying this car to autocross, and that's what the budget is going to be set for, and you got a $7,000 budget or an $8,000 budget, you can build it, but it's probably not going to be as competitive as you're going to really want it to be, unless you're just out there to have fun like I'm going to be doing. Okay? So, because really, you need a 4-link in the rear. You're needing to upgrade your rear differential, your gearing. You're going to be needing to change your gearing. Because, see, I'm not accounting for any of this. And you can't run like that. Long bed Chevrolet is probably going to have, I mean, I have no idea really what Chevrolet's put in there, but I know Ford's on their cheap trucks, you're going to get like a 327 gear, or even as the old trucks had like 247s. That's what my truck's got in it. Yeah. So that's some crazy, you're not getting the takeoff you need.
Yeah, and when it comes to autocross, it's literally all about acceleration. It's first and second gear the whole time.
Yes.
Maybe third sometimes.
So to me, the more I've looked into the autocross side of this, it's not happening and being very competitive for under 10 grand.
Yeah. Once again, any motorsport you ever do, if you want to be competitive, you got to have money. Even in drifting, I mean, to be a competitive drifter, I mean, if you look at Formula Drift, I mean, those guys have 1,000 horsepower cars.
Yeah.
Drifting.
Yeah.
And you don't need all that if you just want to go out and have fun. So like essentially same with the autocross. If you want to be super competitive, you need a 700, 800, 900 horsepower car.
Yeah.
But realistically, if you want to go out and have fun, you can just do that. Same thing with drag racing. I mean, it all. If you just want to have fun, you can get away with a budget build.
Yes.
But if you want to be really competitive, a budget is just not going to work.
But like when I'm looking at like the Cobra, for instance, I haven't started pricing parts yet. I've only looked at high-end stuff just to realize I'm not even going to try to attempt to touch that stuff. Yep. So I haven't even started pricing the budget stuff yet. But I think that I can do it fairly cheap. Yeah. But that car has already got enough power for me to have fun with.
Well, it was also kind of made to handle from factory as well, because when they made the 96
sway bars and everything.
When they made the 96 through 98, and actually, if you go from the 99 to 01, those were all made to handle.
Yeah,
I'm sure the Terminator has the same sort of thing too, because it's an IRS rear end.
Yeah,
but. So
I mean, mine's not IRS.
No, but it's still, they were made to handle. I mean, if you go back and watch old videos of them, like when they were brand new coming out, like you can sometimes get posts on YouTube from when they had like something on TV about it or something.
Yeah.
And you see them handling around the cones. I mean, compared to a regular Mustang, it's made to do it.
You didn't have all the slide.
Yeah, it's made to do it. So it's already better for autocross.
Yeah, from the factory.
Yeah.
But like that old truck, it's going to take a lot to get it there.
Because you're taking it from something it's not to something to something different.
So if it was me and I knew long term I wanted to autocross this truck, but it's not in my budget yet, I am building that truck as a good cruiser. But I'm going to go ahead and start putting parts on it that in long term I can use for my end build, my budget autocross build.
Yeah.
So like I may go ahead and do the tubular front control arms. I may go ahead and put sway bars on it.
You're kind of looking at it from the approach you're looking at it from the approach that if you've got to replace this already, might as well go ahead and put a better part on it since you're there.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that what we're going to do, in the next episode is we're going to be talking about our final pricing. The
mods
build
and everything.
The build is done, or the build is being done, and this is what it's going to end up costing us. Okay, and we're going to show you guys lists of what we went with and what it cost. And, this isn't real, but it's going to get you on the ballpark of what you could do on a budget.
Yeah.
And give you an idea, if you've not ever done a build before and you're getting into this for the first time, of what it costs to actually do any type of build, whether it's a budget build or you're going to be going high-end stuff. I mean, if you're going high-end stuff and the sky's the limit on your budget, then, more power to you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I wanted to talk about is, Zach, so we've ordered our parts, okay?
Yep.
And we're starting to kind of put a timeline together on what we want to do here, okay? That is part of your budget bill.
Yes.
Is timeline. Because sometimes you may have a budget of $6,000, $7,000, $10,000, but that needs to be drawn out over 2 years.
Yeah.
Or it needs to be drawn out over, a full year's time. Maybe, like I was saying with the stuff that I was doing in the last podcast, but you can do that over a matter of a few weeks or even, a couple months or however you wanted to do it. The timing would be whatever, but the timing also is about your budget. So maybe you have saved enough money to buy the vehicle, but that's all you can buy to start out. So you're going to get the vehicle. That's why I always say buy something running and driving.
So you can enjoy it.
So you can enjoy it. And then you got to start saving toward, okay, this is my plans for the vehicle, but I don't want to exceed this amount, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000, whatever that is. Okay, so one thing that I don't know if I'm going to say highly discourage. I don't highly discourage this, but one thing that I kind of discourage is putting yourself on a time frame that is short to meet a goal of a show or like power tour or something like that. So buying a vehicle in March and saying I'm going to have it ready to go in June for power tour and it needs everything. Don't put yourself in those positions. I know that all these YouTubers do it and it looks awesome and it looks great.
It gives you a cool story.
It does give you a cool story, but you've got to have a lot of help.
You are killing yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna give a tiny little story of myself doing this exact thing. So when I bought my white Mustang, I bought it in June of this year, 2024, and it was the very end of June, I think, or was it the middle of June?
It was the middle.
Okay, middle of June.
No, it was the end.
Okay.
It was the end of June.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was like June 30th or something.
It was
right
at the
right
end.
at the end of the year,
Yep.
or right at the end of the month. So I bought it in June, and when I got it, I knew it had the rust. We've talked about this. We've talked about all the stuff that's wrong with this car multiple times. So y'all already know the issues I had. The rust, all that stuff. I pulled the motor because I was like, I'm going to put a cam in it. If you follow me on Instagram, you see that I'm having all kinds of issues with this. So you'll see what I'm leading up to.
Yeah.
I was getting married. August 23rd is when I got married. I wanted to have this car done, cammed, and I wanted to be able to get in it and drive it to Nashville for mine and my wife's honeymoon after we got married. So I wanted to, pick her up in the car. I just thought it'd be so cool to, get married and then walk out to a hot rod and take my wife to Nashville in my hot rod. Yeah. And it's just sitting there chopping.
Do some little burnings before you leave.
That'd be sick. That'd be so cool. Well, I put myself on a super tight timeline and approached it slowly when I started because I was like, I got plenty of time. And then you run into problems, and then you get to the week before, and you're like, okay, there's still a chance we can get this done, and then the motor won't start.
Yeah.
So, it's cool to, get stuff done super quick and have this awesome story of like, I worked 15 hours a day for, a whole month straight to get this done, because that's what I did. I would work 15 hours a day. I'd go to my normal job and work 10 hours and then come home and work 5. And then on weekends, I'd work, 12 to 15 hours on the car by itself every weekend. And the only days I had off was Sunday. That was the only day I didn't touch the car.
We would get out here at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning and work till 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, or later. There was some times where I was out here by myself and I would come out at like 11 or 12 and work till 11 or 12 at night. So it was, 12-hour days and 15-hour days sometimes. So all I'm saying is, it's cool. It's a great story, but you are killing yourself. If you watch some of our earlier verse videos, I record we little break in the fourth wall here. We record our verse videos the night before most of the time. Sometimes we'll record them the morning of, but most of the time we record them the night before because I'm going to be honest, I don't get up early enough to record a verse video and then get ready for work. I'm going into work on 2 wheels sometimes. No, I get to work about 15 minutes early, but I'm getting ready, give myself the minimum amount of time in the morning to get ready and leave.
Yeah.
So, but those verses were done after I worked 10 hours at work, and then I'd work 5 or 6 hours out in the garage, and that's why I look so tired in those videos. But all of that to say, yes, it's a cool story. Yes, it's super cool to get it done in that time. You can tell all your friends, like, we knocked this out in a month, and it was hard, but we did it. But most of the time, it's really not worth it because sometimes you're cutting corners,
and you're opening yourself up for mistakes.
Yes,
making mistakes,
and
I think that's one of the things that's happened with this motor.
We think so.
Yeah.
We think we've kind of
made a mistake,
ordered a wrong part,
yeah,
and it kind of caused our issues there. Yeah. So, it's fun, but it is definitely worth taking your time and doing things the right way first time.
First time, yes.
Because now I'm at the point where I'm pulling apart a whole motor and rebuilding the top end from scratch again.
Yeah, again. Yep. And that's the thing, we've done like we bought the Falcon, and it was that car was going to be a budget build, and we went through it real quick in 2 weeks' time to get it at least drivable and
for long distances.
And looking good, for long distances, so we could take it to Ford Fest.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of nights, we were just killing ourselves to get it done.
Yeah.
Especially the last night. And you watch all these SEMA guys, man, and they're throwing these builds together for SEMA, and they're working tirelessly, you know, sometimes 24 hours for, several days to get this thing loaded up and headed to SEMA.
Yeah.
That's all awesome. But, guys, we're not building SEMA builds.
We're also not big known YouTubers either
that
make money from making the video of them thrashing on it.
Yeah. So
and another thing to mention is if you've got a wife, or
kids,
kids, take time and spend it with them.
Don't put them on the back burner.
Because that's what I did with this Mustang, and it did not strain my relationship in any means, but it definitely didn't make going home very great.
Yeah.
Because, you go home after working 10 hours at work and then leaving your wife all night long, kind of, eating frozen pizza for dinner for the 5th night in a row. And you come home expecting her to be happy, and she's not,
No.
And you can't expect her to be after you're working all that time.
Well, one thing that I have learned, because I have pushed myself to get vehicles done, my truck especially, on a couple of occasions, pushed myself to get them done. And, his time schedule don't always align with mine. My other boys' time schedule don't always align with mine. So when I need help, I'm pulling, I never have them all there together most of the time.
Yeah.
It's just trying to use who I got when I can, you know. And to get some of these vehicles done, and then you get it done, you make the show, you're super happy, you're excited, but you're exhausted. And when it's all over, you look back and you think,
that wasn't worth it.
That really wasn't worth it.
Nope.
Especially when your wife says, you realize I haven't hardly seen you for 2 weeks.
Yeah, because then after you do all that, you go to your show, it's like you haven't seen her, she hasn't seen you, so then you don't even touch your vehicle for weeks sometimes because you're spending all your time you're trying to catch up on lost time. And in reality, if you can pace yourself and do it slowly, spend time with the people you love, like I have gotten to that point with my car right now. I've decided that my car is not getting done until the spring. It's not getting back on the road until spring of next year.
Yeah.
So it gives me plenty of time to source my parts slowly, find the best deal I can, which is very important as well.
Get the right parts.
Get the right parts, yes.
do a little bit, deeper research.
The thing is when the part I bought wrong, I had no idea that there was 2 different ones.
Yeah.
And I don't really think too many people even knew. But
well, the thing is with Fords, mid-year crap, man, they change stuff mid-year.
Yeah, and I feel like that must be what my deal is, because it's like when you look it up. So for people that don't know, it's a time and chain set. I think I bought the wrong one, but when you look it up, it is for a 289, 302, 351 is what it says, and it's for a roller motor. So, but it's somehow the wrong one.
Yeah, but how could it be for a 289 if it's for a roller motor?
I don't know, but they put that it's for a 289 for everything. Anything that's a 302, it's for 289, 302, 351.
Yeah. So anyway, though, those kinds of mistakes happen when you're trying to push and hurry up and get stuff
because
done.
I ordered all these parts, and I had to get my car done the next month.
Yeah.
And that's all I had. I had a month time period, so I was
building
a top end of a motor
You didn't do as much research as you probably should have before you started ordering parts.
Yeah, but now that I'm, waiting until the spring to get this car done, I can source my parts better, find better prices. So when I'm looking for my heads, maybe I can find that $1,200 set of heads.
And you're
like I was
taking
talking
your
about.
time.
I'm taking my
you're
time.
Not just jumping
so,
into it.
If I can't find that, it gives me more time to save up more money for better parts if I want better parts. So, it's just, it gives you more time to do that. It gives you more time to spend time with your family. So since I'm not thrashing on this car every single weekend for 10 hours a day, I can go out with my wife tomorrow and enjoy some time with her since I'm not killing myself on the car.
Yeah.
So
I would suggest when you're looking at your timeline, set realistic goals that include family time, that include spiritual time, time to make sure you're in church, make sure you're spending time in the Word. That's very important, because one of the things I have found myself doing in the past is skipping out on that early morning prayer and Bible time because I want to get out and get started on the car early so that I can have a couple hours with my wife that night, and then you realize real quick, man, Lord, I haven't spent any time with you this week at all. I haven't spent any time with you for the last month, just me and you, and then you realize that it's affecting you spiritually too. So think this through. Set a timeline that is realistic and allows you to spend quality time with God and your family. And when you do that, you're going to feel a whole lot better about your build when you're done. You're going to feel a whole lot better about it. And I just, we're telling you this, both of us, from experience. Now, if you are a lot bigger builder, you're going to look at this a little different because you've got more resources to be able to do the big build and get it to the show as quick. Mark Frisbee was telling us, a couple weeks ago that the Blazer, the Blavette, they were trying to get it to power tour. It didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And so, but they didn't kill themselves over it. It wasn't going to happen, so they realized that, so they got the other truck ready to go.
And another thing, I'm going to tell you right now, the worst feeling ever is when you kill yourself to get something done on time, and it doesn't, and all of that time went down the drain. And that's what, and that's what happened to me, because I did it all, I tried doing it all before my wedding, and I barely spent time with my wife right before we got married. That's stupid. Don't do that. That's dumb. So I did all that and was spending all this time out here, taking all this time away from her. And at one point she was like, "Look, I don't care how much time you spend, just get it done because I'm tired of you. I don't want all this time that you've spent on the car to go to waste." And it ended up going to waste.
Anyway.
So right before I got married. So it's like, pushing to get it done before the car show is great. That's all fun and all, but if you've got like a wife, or if you're a single dude, do whatever you want, honestly. I don't know. But if you've got family to go back to, spend time with your family. You will regret not doing it.
So to me, that's part of your build. You've got to always factor that in. You've got to always think about that. And, just guys, make sure that it doesn't hurt your relationships. That's
your relationship with God and your relationship with your family is it's always more important than your car.
Now, having goals to say, power tour 6 months away, I've got this vehicle. Hey, I can have this thing done in plenty of time.
As long as it's realistic.
With only spending one day on the weekend and, a couple nights a week on it, I can have it done in plenty of time. Or I'm trying to make LS Fest and I've got 8 months, to get this LS swap done. Okay, that's
reasonable.
So when I'm thinking about time, I'm really now, I've learned a lot, and now I'm trying to limit myself to only so many days or so many Saturdays per month, and then like 2 nights a week out there on it, you know. So keeping that in mind for me, then that helps me know how long it's going to take me to do this build, So, like for me right now, 2 Saturdays a month, and then 2 nights during the week a month. Or 2 nights during the week every, for all 4 weeks of the month. So that's kind of the way I'm trying to look at things now. And so that way I'm not over stretching myself.
I'm at a standstill, so I don't really have any
but
I'm not planning to do anything.
For me, I'm helping your brother on his truck. I'm going to be back to helping you on your car. I've got
some parts
Crown Vic out there that's got to get started on.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a few odd and end things that need to be done to the blue truck. Having a couple of little minor issues with it that I need to sort out. So, I got, like, when I'm thinking about stuff to do during the week, I'm picking small projects that I can get done in a couple hours.
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours at the most. So think your way through your build and how to organize your build. Okay. So you're thinking about time. You need to also think about organization. So what do I want to start with? So I have a full Saturday. What do I want to start? If I need to get this out of the garage, because if you're doing your home garage, maybe you need to get it out of the garage so you can get your wife's car back in there.
Yeah.
So you want it back in there before the week starts. Because if you're like me and Zach, a lot of times we do our projects over the winter.
Yeah.
So then spring, it's ready to go for race season and for show season, cruise-in season.
Yep.
So think your way through how you can do certain things and what order they should go in. And what I always do is I sit down with my whiteboard, like I told you all, and I'll write everything in order of how I think it needs to be done. What makes the most sense. So I've already got the wheels off. What all do I need to do, while I've got them off? And so just simple things like that. Think outside the box and think about the correct order to get this done in the most reasonable amount of time. And that's how you need to make your list and do your setup for it. Because if you just start doing things without thinking your way through what you've done, sometimes you're going to catch yourself doing things 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
So, like, let's just say brakes. You've had your brakes off 3 times because you didn't do the stuff behind the brakes while you had them off the first time.
Yeah.
So when I think suspension, I'm thinking I'm starting, 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I'm doing the whole front suspension rebuild with brakes and all. So when I put it together, it's done in one day.
Yeah.
It's doable, especially if you got a hand to help you out.
Yeah.
So think your way through things like that. If you're doing engine upgrades, it's going to tie the garage up for a week, or 2 weeks, or even a month. Plan for when that needs to be done.
Or in our case, 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months.
Going until next spring, probably. Well, look, once I can get the motor sealed back up, we'll be fine. Once I can get new heads on it, I'll put the valve covers on it, and I'll just set the intake on top. We can push it out.
So we're dealing with a back, just a 2-car garage, guys, here that's just behind our house.
Yeah, right behind you guys.
I've got a whole bay tied up for 6 months.
Well, we got 2 whole bays tied up right behind you guys.
We didn't plan very well for this one.
Well, we did. We actually had a great plan. This should have been done before Ford Fest, but
just didn't work out.
I bought one wrong part. It seems like, which we don't even know if that's even what caused it. But that's my theory. And
I'm just messing with you.
I know, but one wrong part. Now the car's in here until spring.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a race car when it comes out.
Well, that's awesome.
And also right behind you is all my brother's truck parts. So two bays held up.
Which his truck's going to be done this weekend.
His truck was also supposed to be done a long time ago.
It was supposed to be done a long time ago. But man, we're just full of all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
So last week we talked about Paul because we've been talking about the last couple podcasts how God takes a lot of times someone who's been thrown out, like these old cars that you find in fields and barns, or people have just neglected over the years, and God takes that person and he turns them into something special, and to leaders, or to leaders to lead different types of ministries, because we all have gifts. We've talked about all that. So last week we talked about Paul and how Paul was the head of persecuting Christians, during this time. And God turned him around and used him to become the writer of the majority of the New Testament.
Yeah.
He is the one of the most influential Christians, or he probably is the most influential Christian of all time. But today, we're going to talk about Peter. We mentioned Peter a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk a little bit about Peter. Because again, Peter is, the start of the Christian church. He was one of the many that started the Christian church, and one of the most famous. And all through the New Testament and through the Gospels especially, you see Peter as the outspoken one. He's the one that's always speaking up first, So Zach, go ahead and read our scripture we started with again. And this is when Peter, which was Simon, he wasn't Peter yet, is being called to be a disciple.
All right, Mark 1:16-18. Passing alongside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." And immediately they left their nets and followed him.
So 2 things here. Number 1, they're fishermen. So fishermen back then, I don't know, I'm sure fishermen are still a lot the same now, but fishermen back then would have been strong. They would have been tough. They're pulling these nets in. Okay, they don't have
with hundreds of pounds of fish.
They don't have pulleys and come-alongs and winches, and they are pulling these nets in by hand. And not only that, they're rowing their boats.
Yeah,
through rough waves and all different types of, I guess probably through storms and things too at times. So these guys were tough. They were built tough.
Yep.
Kind of like our Fords out there, but they were built tough. And Peter, or Simon at this time, not only did he just get up and leave what he was doing, he got up and left what he was doing for somebody that he had no clue who they were.
Yeah.
Except for Jesus said, "I will make you fishers of men."
Yeah.
And whatever that meant to Peter changed his life forever.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even think to put myself in that position and somebody walk up to me. He knew, it was all God. He knew that this guy was a prophet. This guy, he may not have known right then he was the Messiah, but he was probably thinking it in the back of his head.
Yeah.
So thinking about Peter being a tough guy, being rough around the edges, being a fisherman, I'm sure, when I think about how The Chosen depicts Peter, I really believe that's how he was.
Yeah.
He was probably a gambler. He probably went to the little pub down the street, after a day of fishing before he went home. That's kind of the way they portray him before Jesus calls him.
Yeah.
And even some shortly after. And when I see that, and he's a cut guy, handsome, nice cut guy, you can tell he's strong. And when I think about Peter, I think, that's who I would have thought Peter was.
Yeah.
So Peter gets his name changed, or he's Simon, and Jesus changes his name. Zach, read to us John chapter 1, verse 42.
Chapter 1, verse 42.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, didn't see your little bookmark there.
Maybe that's the wrong one. No, that's not the right one.
No. All right. John chapter 1, verse 42 says, "He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, 'You are Simon the son of John. You shall be called Cephas,'" which means Peter.
And so Cephas in Aramaic is rock. It means rock.
Yep.
Before Peter had even realized that Jesus was the Messiah, Jesus was already looking at him as the foundation of the church.
Yep.
He was already looking at him as the leader of the church. And he already saw in Peter what he was going to use him for. And that's when I think about like myself and how I've told you all this many times, God's called us to do this podcast. God knew at this point in our life, this is what he had in store for us.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think about that. It's amazing to think, God has a plan for me. And I pray the prayer so often, and men, I encourage you all to pray this prayer. God, what is the plan for me? What do you want to use me for? Will you reveal that to me? I ask God to reveal what he's wanting to use me for a lot. Reveal to me what path you want me to take with this podcast. How do you see the future, God? He's not always going to answer that prayer, but I'm constantly praying, God, reveal to me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Because God's got a job for all of us, and that main job is spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
But it could be a podcast. It could be something on YouTube.
Using your talent to spread the gospel is the best way to do it, I feel.
Yes. And it could be, working, whatever your talent is, working in your community, sharing that talent, but sharing the Word of God as well.
Yep.
As men, we need to be leaders of our families, and we need to be leaders in our church. And so in order to do that, we need to be asking God, hey, God, what is your plan for me? Show me your plan and help me to be obedient. Help me to be obedient.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul was. Paul was obedient. He hopped up and he was gone. He was following Jesus, and Jesus makes Peter the foundation of the church.
Yeah.
So let's read, where we at? We got John chapter 18, verse 10.
Verse 10. John chapter 18, verse 10 says, Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus.
So I told you Peter was rough.
Yeah.
Peter's he's all chopping off ears. Yeah, quick-tempered, chopping off ears. But what's he doing it for? In the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
In the name of Jesus. He's trying to save Jesus from being arrested. But then what does he do shortly after? Denies Jesus 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times. He is no different than us, guys. No different than us. How often do we go and do this awesome thing that we feel led to do for the ministry of God, and then the next day catch ourselves doing something that we know God saved us from?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we have these things that just creep up, and Satan tries to bring us down, and we end up finding ourselves doing that right after doing this great work.
Yeah.
And it's like that glorified God. No different than Peter. No different than Peter.
I think it's good to, look at someone like Peter, because, just like what you said, we fall back into, certain sins that Jesus has defeated.
Yes.
And we fall back into it, and you can see someone who was very highly regarded by Jesus doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, but Jesus knows we're weak.
Yeah.
And that's why he's our strength.
Yeah.
That's why he went to that cross and died for our sins.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing we could have done to ever cover the sins in our life.
Yeah.
So, guys, I just want to encourage you to realize that just because you don't think you're any good, or just because you don't think you have a talent, or you don't think that you can do what God's telling you to do, you can. In the name of Jesus, you can.
We've already talked about 2 people who have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Yes.
And, they are no different than us.
That's right.
We've all done bad things, that we regret, and maybe we've asked for forgiveness from that sin, and then we turn around and do it again.
Yeah.
It's, these people have done the same thing, and both people are highly regarded in Christianity.
Well, and you just like Paul last week saying that he was the greatest of all sinners.
Yeah.
So when I look at our lives, man, when I look at our lives, man, we need to realize that we're imperfect, and we're never going to be perfect. But God can use us just as we are.
Yep.
And that's who we need to be. We need to be obedient to God. We need to be just as he's created us, and we need to trust him and allow him to use us. Okay? So, Zach, wrap this up for us.
All right. I want you to like, subscribe, comment, leave us criticism, constructive criticism. Let us know what we can do better. If you've got an idea for our podcast, maybe something we could try, let us know in the comment section. We love to hear it. We love to. It gets us thinking. Maybe thinking of new ways to do stuff.
Yep.
And we
had one of those earlier this week.
Yeah, we did. It's got us thinking.
Yeah.
But let us know. Kind of what you're thinking. Comment about this. Like if you've got something that you want to talk about, just comment it.
You never know, a comment you make may help somebody else.
Yeah, we've gotten quite a few comments that are on our verse videos and stuff like that are pretty powerful. Like people asking for prayer, people telling us stories of things that have happened to them. It's good to see. We enjoy seeing stuff like that.
What's something else that we need for everybody to do?
Oh, send in your rides.
Yes.
Nobody is sending us rides to post on Saturday. We want to post pictures of your cars. You know, it don't matter if we've interviewed you before on the podcast. It don't matter if you just, follow it. It doesn't matter what car you have except for electric vehicles. We will not post electric vehicles.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I'm not really sorry, honestly.
No.
But if you've got anything, if you think it's cool, somebody else does. Send it to us. Send us your favorite verse. We'll post it. And we're trying to do that every Saturday. We really need people to do it.
It's been a few Saturdays since we've done it because we ain't got any pictures.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start posting our daily drivers if y'all don't start sending the stuff. So, send us your rides. We really want to get them up.
All right, so guys, we love you all. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.